Are we live? Okay, we are live. um, so this is actually my first ever um shot at live streaming. So hopefully this works out well. So hello all and welcome to today's episode of the Catechism Diaries. Today I am very honored to have a very special guest. Many of you in the Catholic community will know him. He goes by Catholic Gabe. So great. Now we have two Catholic Gabriels. So, but the more the merrier, right? So, other Gabe has officially entered into the Holy Mother Church this Easter Vigil. So just last week. And today I have the pleasure of having him live to share the story of his conversion, or as we Catholics like to say, crossing the Tiber. So if you're new to this channel, do hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to turn those notifications on. Follow me on Instagram for tons of fun stuff and hit that like button because apparently it helps the algorithm. So without further ado, let's jump into it. All right, and hopefully this should be showing us. Okay, we see us. Wow, we have 3 likes and 5 viewers. Also, I have 2 of me up there. Let me just remove that. And now I'm frozen. It's okay. It's all good. It's all good. I'll be up in a sec. Okay, great. So, hello. Sorry for the all the technical difficulties. Fun fact: I woke up at 6 a.m. this morning, and Gabe has I turn on my Instagram, and I see Gabe's story. He's like, "Oh, guys, we're going live at 8 p.m." And I'm like, "Wait, live? Okay, then I guess we're going live." So here we are, trying to sort out and wing this. So, welcome, Gabe. Please introduce yourself. Tell us what's there to know about you.
Right. First of all, thank you, Gabriel, for inviting me to your show so that I can talk about my conversion story. Thank you again for the opportunity. So, just to get to know about me, first of all, my name is I'll just release it either way. Is Gabriel Choza.
Oh no, now you're gonna be
I
doxxed. You're gonna be doxxed. You can't do that.
oh oh brother.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I am first of all, I'm 19 years old. Hard to believe. I am currently I'm currently a college student who is seeking to major in civil engineering, and right now, I last week I was just confirmed into the Catholic Church. Finally, after almost 3 years of research and seeking to grow closer to Christ. And without further ado, I'm really looking forward to talk about my conversion story.
All right. Am I on? Okay. Yeah, that my camera shuts off once in a while. But okay, we're good. So, I think how should we start really? This is a with conversion stories, it's never a, just, one day God told me that I should become Catholic and
Right,
okay, going for RCIA. So where would you
right.
where would you place the start of your journey towards journey towards the fullness of truth? Where would you place the start of that?
Right. So basically, so let's start from the beginning, shall we?
For sure.
So first of all, I was born in Havana, Cuba, which explains the flag in the background. Um, and obviously, Cuba is a country that is known for a lot of things, obviously, but one of the things is its Catholic roots. And my family baptized me as a Catholic just a few weeks after I was born. But with that being said, we never really practiced the faith. Pretty much, we just got baptized, but we never, went through the RCIA process. I never, received the sacrament of reconciliation, and never received my first communion, so on and so forth. And I guess my family simply just viewed Catholicism as something cultural. because obviously our motherland has Catholic roots, so therefore we just treat it as something traditional, not something really that we take as serious. Although we did celebrate holidays such as, the Day of the King Magi. We participated in parades similar to one that is almost like Mardi Gras just before Lent starts. But again, we just never took the faith serious. So jumping into 8 years later, we moved to the United States, and as we know, I lived all of my entire life in the South, and the South has a nickname known as the Bible Belt,
Oh
literally full
my,
of evangelicals, Protestants, Baptists, you can imagine,
for sure.
and good amount of fundamentalists as well. Now, I guess you can say that uh, um, the Christian roots that I've basically been exposed to this entire time, anything related to Protestantism, but it was mostly Pentecostalism or the charismatic church. I remember when I was like 10 years old, and then my mom's friends that she met from work invited us to our church. And here's a fun fact, folks. If you think Anglo Pentecostals are just crazy, you haven't met the Hispanic Pentecostals.
Oh
Just a
wow.
fun fact. It's
Oh,
literally loud music. You can't even hear yourself.
I can imagine. I can
But
imagine.
but we have been going to that church almost every Saturday night for 3 years straight. But nevertheless, obviously we didn't go every single Saturday. It was from time to time. Um, but I never really had interest in learning about the faith or seeking to grow closer to God, because I was just simply a kid, and sometimes religion is the last things kids nowadays focus on.
Yeah.
Um, so starting in my years in middle school, I at this time we didn't really go to church anymore. We just basically, at least it was a relief for me, because Saturday nights there's nothing there. Saturday nights is one of those days where you just want to spend the entire rest of the night sleeping rather than hearing loud drums. Um, and during this time, I was exposed to a lot of things. Obviously, pornography was one of them. Vulgar language, profanity, so on and so forth.
Who isn't
Um,
nowadays, right?
right,
Who
exactly.
isn't? You're not alone.
And and so basically at this point, I was just being like any other of the boys during these stages. Um, Now, and obviously, I mean, I mean, I've really never took religion serious at this point. As a matter of fact, I never even knew truly who Jesus Christ was, which is funny because my dad and my stepmom tried to at least take us to Christmas and Easter mass. Uh, you know, so I was one of those CEOs, just FYI.
For people who
Or as
don't
I like,
know, what is a CEO?
the Christmas Easter onlyist. Just
We have a lot of those wherever you are in
right.
the world, really.
Yep. And so at this point, even when I went to those to mass for Christmas or Easter, I didn't even know what in the world was going on. I and I only practically call myself a Catholic in the nominalist sense, where I basically just call myself a Catholic. I didn't know anything about Catholicism. Um, so after that, by the time I was in the 7th grade, we just stopped going to the Catholic Church. I mean, we never even went to. Just let me just say that we just only went for Christmas and Easter, but they just didn't seek the interest in that anymore. And by the time I was in the 8th grade, um, I've gone uh, through a new phase. In other words, I moved out of my mother's house and I moved in with my father and my stepmom. And that year, I like to call it my parents' year in hell, because I I was just extremely I was quite the cookie during those days.
Give us a rough overview of the kind of Gabe you were at 8th grade.
Oh, brother. So I was extreme. I mean, first of all, I was very lazy. So, in other words, if my parents told me to do something, I mean, even if it was just the smallest little thing, like cleaning up the tables, I would get so pissed off very easily. I was like, what is wrong with me? But, um, and I was, now I didn't say, that like the F word or the D word or anything like them, but let's just say I was not afraid to say my thing in those
Okay.
cases. Um, and again, I was just let's just say, and I mean, I was, I mean, due to these, me being always angry, or a lot of the times I would become a very depressed person. So in other words, I would feel like I just nobody really cared about me. I felt like I was, you know, I was basically a disgrace to everyone. That I would even fake uh, fake about me injuring myself or committing suicide. And again, it
Darn, you
was
were one
just,
of those. You were one of those
I was
people.
one of those people, all right. And let's just say I got to give credit to those who were my friends at the time, because they would have had the biggest heart attack whenever I just reported these things.
Oh man.
Um, and there was also my pornography addiction that it was just really hard to let go. Um, because watching pornography for me almost became like a daily habit. And I was stressed a lot of the times, and I thought that my solution to getting rid of the stress was watching pornography. And as we know, and I mean, it was crazy. Um, so right about when I finished my last year in middle school and going to my first year of high school, my I was improving in some sense. First of all, I cared more about my education and my grades. I was improving academically speaking. I tried to improve in not saying any vulgarity. I improved in not cursing. So I was, in some sense, I was getting better. Although the pornography addiction still didn't go away, but that's a later story. Um, and so during this time, my parents said, okay, maybe we should start going to church again. But they didn't. The Catholic Church was not necessarily the first thing that came into their minds. Why? I don't know.
What was the trigger
Uh,
that they said, okay, it's time to go back to church?
right. So it was basically a series of church shopping. So on the one hand, we would go
Church
to a
shopping.
charismatic. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So on the one hand, we would go one Sunday to a charismatic church. On the other hand, we would go to a Baptist church, to a Reformed church, so on and so forth. Um, and during this time, we started moving to another town, and where we bought our first home, because throughout our entire lives, we basically always lived in apartments, but we got our first home. And surprise, surprise, these missionaries were coming into our door, who happened to go to a charismatic church. Like I said, I've been exposed to charismatic churches throughout my entire life.
Right, so that we're
Um,
at that part of the story now. Okay, got it.
right. So they invited us to their church, which, by the way, was only just simply just 5 minutes away from our home. But we went there, and they had a great community. They had a pastor who was very smart. Sometimes when people like to think about Protestant pastors, they think as these people, like, very ignorant, pugnant, always, not have any reasoning. And while there is that case, and while there is that can be the case, at the same time, this pastor was just, a very intelligent man. You can tell that, the Holy Spirit was just seriously working in him, because he loved preaching. Um, and once in a while, I've been invited to the youth groups, and I went to their meetings, so on and so forth. But I just never had that feeling of being on fire for the faith. I never really even took interest. Um, so then what happened? How did I get interested in the faith?
When
So
you say
jumping in.
the faith, do you refer to Catholicism or do you refer to just the
Oh,
faith as a whole?
I'm referring to being interested in Christianity. That's what I mean.
Right, so all
Yeah.
this
So
while you were just, going to church and stuff, but you never
right.
really,
Right,
had that
right, and
fire.
right, and I mean and I mean it's funny because I would still I was still a nominalist. I would call myself a Christian, but even though I just never really practiced, I just called it myself as a title, basically, like like as a name tag. So I guess where this was where I decided to take it serious was it was either in the end of my freshman year to I think even or close to or in the beginning of my sophomore year. So what happened was that I started, when I went to this high school, it was a high school that basically almost none of my friends went to. Sometimes the friends that I knew back from 8th grade went to this one high school that is just maybe like 20 minutes away from around the corner, so on and so forth. And for many people who can relate with me, it's hard to meet new people when you start when you first start going to high school. At least for me, it was. Um, because it's a new life, and then you're starting to meet new people, and then you try to be friends with everyone. And I was just not getting anywhere because I feel like a lot of people who go to high school, they have this idea where, okay, it's my goal to become the popular kid. So I was I was trying really hard to try to impress people. I was trying to at least I mean I wasn't trying to follow what everyone followed because I knew there was some immorality to it, but I was trying my very best to get along with other people, but it didn't seem like it was working. And this somewhat affected me because I thought that that nobody really cared about me, that nobody uh, wanted to be friends with me. And during this time, I had some friends who lived next door, but they moved away to New York for personal purposes. Um, and so during this time, I was just feeling really let down because at this point, I really didn't have any friends. Now, maybe I had some students who were in class with me and we talked once in a while, but but I just never, but I just never, we just never seek interest in talking to each other outside of class. And so what happened one day was that I was just, on my bed, just looking up the ceiling. And like I said, I had this hard time where I had these panic attacks, these moments of depression, and I felt like there were voices inside of me saying that, just to just to not make it, PG rated R, some things such as you're a waste of you're a waste of um, this is gonna sound inappropriate, but forgive me. But some
No,
things
it's
like
okay.
you're a waste of some things like you're a waste of semen. You're a son of a what.
Mm-hmm.
Just hang yourself. There's really no hope for you. Now, I mean, obviously, some people might think so. Perhaps that might just been something psychological, or maybe it would have been, or in some cases, maybe it would have been something just emotional or psychological, or excuse me, or diabolical. I believe in spiritual warfare, so I would say that it's certainly something diabolical. Um, Especially if it's encouraging me to kill myself. That's another thing. And I stressed about this ever since I was in middle school, but I never had the nerve to, to tell anyone about this, especially my father, because I felt like my father's answer would have been, okay, you're just simply being over dramatic. Come on now. So I just never really had the courage to tell anyone about this, and I felt like I would have seemed like a weirdo by telling these things. And so one day, I I thought to myself, you know what? Uh, I decided to talk to my pastor right after after the Sunday service to talk about what I'm going through. And even though I didn't know him that much, he seemed like somebody who was pretty trustworthy. So after the service was over, I I sat down with him, and it was really hard to tell him how I felt and what I was going through. Because again, I just don't really tell anyone about my feelings that much or what I'm going through personally or mentally. But when I started talking to him about, how I felt and whatnot, I mean, let's just say that I don't think I've ever cried so much in my life that day. I mean, I, I just broke down crying the second I told him the first thing that I'm going through and how it's greatly affecting me. So he just saw my pain just literally right as we were sitting down. Um, and this led him to say, okay, we need to help him, because obviously he has a care for souls and he knows that I am new to the church and just that I need some assistance, because I also told him that I was alone and I just didn't have any assistance with me to understand what I'm going through physically. And so he decided to talk to who was at the time our youth pastor. And I mean, he didn't, he didn't go soft on me. First of all, he said, "Okay, listen here, you're going through this. It's not good that you're going through this. Here's what I'm gonna give you, and this will definitely help you." That shows the care that these people had for souls. I mean, it was a great community. They gave me devotionals. They taught me how to pray. They taught me about Jesus Christ and the gospel. And this certainly encouraged me. Like it certainly helped me understand that that I do have a meet that God created me in His image, and I certainly do have a purpose for. He certainly has a purpose for me to live, and I believe that He was calling me calling me to preach the gospel, to inspire to inspire at least many young people to come to Christianity. Now, it wasn't necessarily that one event about me going through that psychological phase or diabolical moment that made me say, okay, I'm just gonna convert to Christianity. No, even though they sent me the devotionals, or even though they taught me how to pray, or taught me the God, about the Holy Gospel, I still decided, to still research about Christianity. I still decided, you know, and I came to the conclusion that, just to shorten it down, that Christianity is a true religion, based on the evidence of the resurrection and the eyewitnesses that have martyred that were martyred because of their faith in Christ. So it's incredible that you know such a event would be simply just staged by people who were claiming that this Jesus was just that Jesus was the Messiah and the Son of God. I mean, so so I came to that conclusion that Christianity is the one true religion, and I just 2 weeks after Easter, uh, I decided to get baptized, and I believe this was in 2018, if I remember correctly, 2018. Well, first of all, rebaptized. Obviously, as a Christian, once you're baptized, you can't necessarily rebaptize yourself. But then again, I was not very well informed. I didn't think that that in that I thought that baptism was just something based upon one's person's decision. I did not understand the traditional understanding of infant baptism, so that's why I decided to get rebaptized.
So
Uh,
just to interrupt, for those who don't
right.
know what they mean by what he means by being baptized twice. So I mean, I guess as Catholics, I'm not sure if all am I frozen is okay. I guess as Catholics or perhaps all Christians, I'm not sure how it works with the Protestant side, but we don't believe that once you're baptized, you can't get baptized again. So, for example, if you're a Protestant and you come into the Catholic Church, we're not going to baptize you again. We're going to welcome you into the church, but we're not going to be like, okay, we're baptizing you again, because we do recognize as long as you've been baptized in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, you're a Christian. So we can't baptize
Yeah.
you again. So that's what he means by being baptized twice. So, Gabe, you are, I think, I don't know, you're a heretic or something because you've got baptized twice. Do you know what happens when you get baptized twice? It's a double, like a double negative. What have you done?
Right.
Seriously. I'm joking, but okay.
Hey,
So,
I mean, like I said, I was ignorant. I did not know any better,
all right.
man.
So where were we
So
in your story?
right. So um after that I became, I became very active in the church. I participated in setting up for events, whether it was, in Christmas or Easter, or let's say it was the 4th of July, and we decided to do this, this picnic outside with everyone, so on and so forth. And we were just, all getting, I was basically helping the church as much as I can. I've cooperated with my church leaders once in a while, maybe like once or twice a week. I would meet with them because I was just really interested in learning about the faith,
So
and every single day I came with a question.
you essentially became the perfect little Protestant boy.
Just to humble myself, I'm not going to necessarily agree with
Okay,
that.
sure, but it sure sounds like you were the good Christian boy, almost like you could even say
Right.
a good homeschooled Christian boy
Yeah,
for that
yeah, I
stage
mean,
of your
yeah.
life.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people did in my community did, they noticed how, I was just very interested in helping the community grow, as well as inspire many other young people there to continue to strive and growing in the faith. And I was just standing out a lot of times. And
That's a
uh,
great transformation, from someone
yeah,
who is struggling with, if you would say perhaps demonic oppression or psychological hardships, and you're fully transformed, and it just shows that what the power of Christ can do. Some people will say that it's just some psychological thing, but this is something that truly it's truly amazing how this stuff works. And something I was thinking about as you were walking me through your story of how you found Christ, in all honesty, I expected this to be as you know, I'm quite focused on bringing people into the truth of Catholicism, into the truth of, I want young Catholics like me to be on fire for their faith in
right.
this world, especially for Americans, a very overwhelmingly Protestant country. And I guess something I really want to do is bring. Why am I getting a call? I'm so sorry. This is
No problem.
my apologies. So unprofessional. Anyway, so that's something I'm really focused on, but just you bringing me through your story of how you found Christianity itself. That's something I fail to think about sometimes because I'm always thinking about, okay, yeah, I take for granted how hard it is for someone to actually become Christian, like not even Catholic, Christian, to believe in Christ and the gospel. That is, um, that is, I fail to, I really fail to recognize how hard that first step actually is as someone who's just was baptized Catholic and just always
Yeah.
had faith. So yeah, that's really great. So fast forward, right now you're this good Christian boy. So if you could, if there's no major events in between, if there are, you can quickly touch on them. But what is
Yeah.
the part where that Catholicism starts creeping into your life? you know.
Yeah, definitely. So we're gonna be jumping through, an entire events, but I'll make sure to help connect the events to
For
understand
sure.
how I came to Catholicism. So first of all, even though I was fine where I was personally, I was still trying to understand, trying to find out more about Christianity because okay, I understood, what the gospel of the message is obvious. I was able to understand, who was the person of Jesus. Now, my question was because I feel like this happens with a lot of people who convert to Catholicism from Protestant background is that they notice that there's is that basically Protestantism uh, is a pod of so many doctrinal differences, and I wanted to know, why why is Christianity the way it is today? Because one of the things I was noticing is the way we worship. And I noticed that the way we worship in the charismatic church was obviously different compared to the way the Catholic Church does, or the way the Presbyterian or the Anglican or the Lutheran or the Baptist worships God. And so my first question is, why is that the case? Um, so I decided to take some personal research to study about the certain various numbers of denominations. Obviously, I didn't cover all of them because it's just way too much. But I decided to go over the main ones. I will say, Catholicism was the last thing I would ever want to research about, and the reason being is because during this time I thought I did knew about what Catholics teach. For example, the idea that Catholics believe that Christ's salvation on the cross wasn't enough, so therefore they had to work their way to salvation, aka a semi-Pelagianism. Um, and also the idea that Catholics worship Mary or in the saints as
Oh
deities.
yeah.
And I believed, but I mean, I'm ashamed to say this, but I believed in the Constantinian myth that
Oh
that once constant.
no.
Yeah. I wouldn't consider myself a fundagelical, but I will say that belief did came in me because I thought it was the quote unquote the most logical I can think
For
of.
those who for those who don't know, what is the Constantine myth?
Right. So the Constantine myth is basically that so it was 3 years of Christian persecution. No one is denying that there were Christian persecutions in the Roman Empire.
Mm.
But after Constantine came into place and legalized Christianity, there's this belief that uh, that supposedly the Catholic Church mixed Christian beliefs with Roman pagan beliefs in order to easily evangelize the entire Roman Empire. Basically, the our Blessed Mother in this case would be a pagan goddess that was hidden as this woman, who was basically the mother of Jesus. When in reality, it was just a pagan goddess. And the same goes with the saints and other crazy, delusional things.
Yeah, essentially,
Uh,
so they basically think that Constantine invented Catholicism, and yeah, as you said, they meshed pagan beliefs and Christian beliefs, and the original Christians actually only got their beliefs from the Bible, which kind of didn't exist at the time.
right.
So
Yeah.
that's
So
the Constantine myth.
yeah. So continuing on, I guess, just to make it short, I guess what got me interested in Catholicism was because so one day our stepmom, who was she was raised Catholic, and then when she came to the United States, long story short, she became a Baptist, but she never lost that interest in Catholicism.
Hmm.
So one day, she decided to say, "Hey, I'm going to the Holy Name of Jesus Cathedral in Raleigh to go to a Spanish mass. Do you guys want to come with me?"
Wow.
I was surprised she said this because during this time, just a year or two ago, she left Christianity because of the death of her grandson, and this really affected her. She just didn't know what to think, and therefore she apostatized Christianity. And she has been very silent about this. And whenever we would basically mention the name of Jesus in the household, she would blaspheme him.
Oh wow.
So it was pretty scary moment for a lot of us, especially for me, because I was just on fire for the faith, and for somebody to just curse our Lord literally in front of me, that's a heart attack for me. And so she invited us, and I believe this was like 2 weeks before Palm Sunday. The reason why this was a very important moment in my life is because during this time I started my junior year of high school. where, you know, when you start your junior year of high school, the one of the many things that many students focus on is, you know, making sure your grades are stable so that college will accept, various colleges will accept you. But I guess anyone, trust me, I was concerned with it. But the other thing that I was really concerned with is, the spiritual warfare that was just going on. And what I mean by that is that I was challenged uh, spiritually and, logically by, atheists, atheistic arguments. I started to encounter, Muslims and their arguments against Christianity. Obviously, the feminist perspective against against Christianity on the patriarchy, for example, so on and so forth. And this was a very rough time for me, but I will say it did certainly help me. It did certainly help me spiritually because, you know, no one ever promised that when you start your journey on Christianity, it's not like everything's going to be all daisies and rainbows and butterflies. You're going to go through some pretty hard moments. And so being challenged about my faith was certainly one of them. And I took it very personally because I just didn't want to, I I felt like many people were just, you know, uh, it felt like a personal attack. And sometimes I just didn't even have the answers with me, and I stressed about this so much. And throughout Lent, and this was my first Lent fast, I was just asking God, please help me find, the resources, help me find the fullness of the truth, because this is just way too complicated. And lo and behold, just those 2 weeks later is when my stepmother invited us to the Catholic Mass. Now, I was very nervous because I just heard so many misconceptions about the Catholic faith, and I was worried about uh, whether whether or not going to a Catholic mass was a form of a schismatic or a schismatic act, or is it wrong on my part, even though I am just trying to support my stepmom? Was that a bad thing? I didn't tell my pastors, so by good conscience, I said, okay, I'll join you. I'll go. So we went there, and obviously I was confused by a lot of things. It's a new world when you start going to a Catholic mass compared to a Pentecostal service.
I bet.
Um, but I was trying to absorb at least, you know, what I'm able to understand, even though it's my first time coming. And I guess, I was 17, 18 years old at this time, so I was pretty mature, and I was just paying more attention compared to, I don't know, maybe when I was like 11, 12, 13, so on and so forth. And and then one of the the misconceptions that I'm taught is that Catholicism is not Christ centered. In other words, there's more attention about, either the Blessed Mother or the saints or any other thing, but there's just no centric attention to Christ. And I've held that view, even though I just saw no evidence of it. But as soon as we got to the to you know to the communion, to uh, to the Eucharist, where the priest was doing the prayers and where they were going through the consecration, I guess you can say I had this spiritual encounter where I thought this looks very Christocentric. I mean, even before the mass, the hymns that we were singing, the way we were praising God, and the reverence I saw by the Catholic priest and the bishop, the way they reverenced the Bible, I just thought that was very interesting. It kind of attracted me to say, huh, so there really is a somewhat of a Christocentric understanding in Catholicism. And this inspired me to say, okay, what if all the things that I've heard about the Catholic Church, what if I was just all wrong? What if there really is something true about Catholicism? And I just didn't want to accept that because, Catholicism, the thing I love about Catholicism compared to, any other religion is that everything that you do in Catholicism, every single teaching it stands against original sin. It stands against pride. Everything that you do, from the way you behave, the way you talk, uh, and what you do on a daily basis, is the desire to become holy, to to allow God to work in you. And from someone who truly was open to truth, at the same time I was just very, very prideful, because I was like, I mean, there's just no way Catholicism's the one true faith. There's just no way. But at the same time, I opened up myself to Catholicism. And I mean, God works in so many amazing ways. I mean, just 2 weeks before, I was saying, just trying to find the truth, I'm struggling with the answers. Lo and behold, this happened. And then it just opened me up to research more about Catholicism. Um, I was becoming more open to it just by realizing about that, you know, Christ, before ascending, his first his final message was, he gave a duty to the apostles, and that was that he established one church under the leadership of Saint Peter, as we see from Matthew chapter 16, verses 16 to 19. We see that in Peter's confession of faith, there was just Christ was appointing Peter as the shepherd of the entire church, as this leader who will guide, who was given the authority uh, to bind and loose. And whenever I was a Protestant, I got the idea that, okay, maybe this is just simply just Peter's confession of faith. But I saw there was just something more important to that. Because whenever, for example, in the Bible, when somebody's name is changed, that means they're given a special duty and role in God's plan of salvation. So, as a Protestant, I saw that, and it's just um, it just opened me up to understanding. Okay, Christ did not establish many churches, but one church. And I guess the reason why I came in conclusion to this is because for example, um, the reading from Saint John, where Jesus is praying to the Father, and he's saying, "And the glory which thou hast given me, I have given to them, that they may be one, as we are also one." And this connects to readings such as Saint Paul's first letter to the Corinthians,
Oh,
where
now
he's
you're
talking
gonna
about,
come out with all those Bible verses.
just to help people understand
For
where I'm
sure.
going with, is that where he says, so that there may be no division in the body, but that the parts that may have the same concern for one another. And the way I just see it in Protestantism is that now you have Protestants who will say, we're an invisible church, we have is one body, and at the end of the day, we're all Christians. But the problem I saw with that uh, is that literally in that passage from Matthew, it says, "And the gates of hell will not prevail against the church." And why is this so significant? Because when Protestants say that, we're basically all Christians no matter what, you know, normally is because you ask them about doctrinal issues, most importantly that involve salvation.
Hmm.
I saw that it was scandalous that if you're going to tell me that we're one body, but at the same time you're saying that is a free for all for every Christian on what a person can believe, even in terms of salvation. For example, whether or not a person is once saved, always saved, or whether a person can lose their salvation.
Yeah, that
That
was always
is,
something big for me, that even in terms, I would have thought that, okay, so as long as you believe the same thing about your salvation, because it seems like a lot of Protestants are very focused on this part of it, I would think that, okay, so all of you believe that once saved, always saved. But
mhm,
turns out that even within Protestantism, different Protestants believe different things about these. Some of them sharing more in common with Catholicism, and some more in common with Calvinism. So
right.
that is, I
Right.
do
And
see what
and
you're
and you
trying
and
to
you know
say.
and I guess I know Protestants will say, but obviously so many Catholics disagree with each other. Look, I understand that is the case. Obviously, it's not like you're going to come into the church and everyone's going to agree on everything. There will be heretics or schismatics or people who just don't like to follow the church, but yet claim to be Catholic. It's going to happen
There
no
are
matter where you go.
also you must also understand that there's a difference between doctrinal sort of disagreements and just personal
Hmm.
opinions. There are some things that you
Yeah.
are allowed a personal opinion on, and you can there is room for some divide, but on things as major as how are you saved, that's a bit that's quite serious.
No, and also the thing is that, truly doctrine does matter, because the way a doctrine is defined at the end of the day is for us to understand, who is God, how do we live out as Christians, how do we go about and living our lives. Just one error can literally lead you to a horrible road. The same thing can be said for any false religion. If one religion contains one false error, obviously is not the truth and is going to lead you to a, first of all, not very safe road. So the same thing goes for Protestantism. If you're going to tell me that God is truth and the Holy Spirit is the paraclete and the one who guides the church, but at the same time you're going to tell me that all these believers, they claim to be like the Holy Spirit told them that this is how you interpret a passage, but at the same time it contradicts in certain bases, and at the same time you're telling me that the church is invisible and that is one body, but at the same time it seems like the body is breaking apart. Something must be wrong, honestly.
Yeah, I
So
actually have a whole podcast on this, on how with truth, with God's truth, truth is objective, and there can only be one truth. So if something is true, how can there be multiple truths within that one truth? And I
yeah.
think it's telling as well that
And you
just
know,
to
obviously, when we interpret Bible passages, I'm not saying that one Bible passages may have, various different meanings. Obviously, that would not be a very logical argument. But if you're going to say that both that the interpretations contradict one another, and you're claiming to be as the truth, most importantly, if you're going to claim it's by the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, that should be pretty concerning. So I knew that at this point that, okay, yes, Christ established one church, and this church is protected under the Holy Spirit to guide all Christians to understand the fullness of the truth, and without any error contained in it whatsoever. In other words, that will protect it from error, because throughout the histories, when people interpreted, when they said that the gates of hell will not prevail against the church, that would mean that it will prevent it from falling into teaching error. Obviously, the bishops and the priests, they're all sinful men. Some of them will be heretics, some of them will be schismatics, and some of them will teach false teaching. But at the end of the day,
James Martin.
we at the end of that's right. uh, but at the end of the day, we have the difference between, the Protestantism and Catholicism is, at the end of the day, we do have official teaching. We do have an official teaching on various topics. Some of them that I mean, I'm just glad that they're covered, and some of them that are just incredibly clear. Because one
Exactly.
example, one example was that in Protestantism, I was like, okay, I was like, you know, should is contraception okay, or is it not okay? In some cases I got some answers that say, contraception is okay, and some other answers I said, it doesn't matter whether what at what occasion you use contraception. And then another occasion you say, contraception is not okay, whereas the Catholic Church, officially teaches that contraception is just not it's just not okay, so on and so forth. So just one example, just that example. Um, and so basically, just to flash forward, I did a 2-year research, um, understanding, first of all, the church history. Obviously, I don't claim to be an expert on church history. Obviously, I'm continuing to learn every single day. But at least where I got to understand, okay, what did the early Christians believe? That that obviously the Catholic Church teaches today. For
Basically, it
example,
wasn't Protestantism is something that
right,
is.
Right, right. So one example is the teaching on the Eucharist. Another example is, of course, the perpetual virginity of Mary. Another example is, whether a man is justified by faith alone or not, or whether it's by
Is
faith
there
and
more?
works. Right. I will say that I didn't necessarily have a hard time when it came to justification or on whether or not we are saved by faith alone or faith and works, because one thing is that one of the saints that is my confirmation saint, but I was just clinging to me throughout my Christian journey is Saint Augustine of Hippo.
Oh wow. I
And
actually have have it right here. I've been reading it, so wow, great.
yeah, and I mean his I remember reading over his teaching in one of his writings on grace and free will. I read over I read chapter 18, and I encourage people to go to that chapter. I mean, he literally is debunking faith alone or once saved always saved just in the drop of a hat. And that's why I didn't have a hard time in rejecting faith alone as well as once saved always saved, because I thought to myself, okay, uh, because at least the type of faith alone that I've been exposed to was the idea that you can never lose your salvation. Um, and obviously, there's the Protestant understanding that what justification means is the idea that the sinner is justified not by an interior righteousness, but by simply in their faith and belief in Christ. Whereas the Catholic Church rightly teaches that justification denotes that the change or the transformation in the soul in an ongoing process. Obviously not in the initial, because in the initial is where we're starting, but throughout that ongoing process, God justifies us through our faith. Um, because obviously we are human beings that come from that were stained with original sin, and Christ came to redeem us through His holy sacrifice. Now, after that 2-year research, I we're talking about it was the start of 2020. And let me tell you, it was a crazy year for so many reasons.
Oh yeah.
um, you know, but I guess what made it complicated was that um, was that I I was finally coming to the conclusion that I wanted to convert to Catholicism, but it was just I was having a hard time saying, okay, I need to tell people that I'm going to convert. And probably somebody is going to ask me, what were other people's opinion when they heard about your conversion. The only person that was very concerned about me wanting to convert at first was my father. Now, I told him 3 times that I wanted to convert. The first time he just didn't want me to convert simply because he because of the anti-Catholics beliefs. The second reasoning was because he thought, okay, look, you're doing great in your Christian life. You're in this great community. Why do you just want to throw that away? But the third reasoning, which was, at least a week before I entered into RCIA, he said, okay, uh, I'll support you in this. Um, but what I feared about the most was just letting go of the community I had in my Protestant church. I got along with everyone. Many people helped me along the way in my faith journey, and it was just very hard to say, okay, it's time to say goodbye to this place. I guess that was one of the toughest parts. But jumping ahead, I came to the Catholic Church. I was already baptized, so there was no need for baptism. Then we just went through the process. The process really wasn't that long, because basically I summarized to them what I understood about Catholicism and what I still am trying to understand. And it was basically some things that we needed to clarify about, for example, the sacraments, as well as the understanding of how to live how to live a life as a Catholic, how to evangelize, so on and so forth, and just studying some moments on church history. But other than that, and then this Paschal Vigil, I was fully confirmed and received my first communion, and till this day we are here.
Wow. So just to recap all of that, so you were born a cultural Catholic, and then somehow you ended up going into Protestantism more of, but still never really encountered Christ himself.
Right,
And then you find you're having all of these struggles mentally, diabolically even, and you find Christ, and then eventually you Catholicism worms its way into your life. That's
right,
that's great. I mean, I often fail to recognize this. Like, I always hear stories of how people go from just from Protestantism, and now um I found Catholicism, and it's like, oh yay, but I fail to recognize,
right.
wow, like for so many people, there's this entire journey of just from I don't know paganism to just like wow. But I guess something I'm still wondering is, so
Sure.
when was the moment exactly that you decided that okay, I'm gonna change my Instagram username to Catholic Gabe?
Okay, so very interestingly, so I had another account before I started making the account Catholic Gabe. So my older one, which was basically my secular account. So during this time, I started getting stronger in my in my conservative values, my conservative beliefs. I was holding. I mean, Catholicism really does teach you how to be traditional. I mean, as much as you can learn from Protestantism in terms of traditional marriage and whatnot, again, Catholicism just really helps you out. Because during this time, obviously, I thought, contraception in some occasions were okay. I also thought that abortion was also necessary in some occasions.
Hmm.
But after learning the Catholic teaching on contraception, on on abortion, as well as the Catholic teaching on patriotism. There
Hmm.
is a Catholic teaching on patriotism as well as
Wow.
from Thomas Aquinas.
I did not know about that. I
So
have to check that out.
I'll make sure to send you the link on that. But yeah, there's a teaching on patriotism to care about your country, seeking to understand what is best for your country. And so obviously my conservative values at this time strengthened. And I remember it was the 4th of July, and you know, there was a lot of controversies going on, before
Hmm.
before the 4th of July. Namely, that I mean, if you saw an American flag, somebody, seeing someone with an American flag, people are just going to come right at you and literally curse you.
Hmm.
Sometimes, even calling you a fascist or a racist. Um, and my secular account was just a really negative environment. I tried my very best to make it, to share Christian devotion, Christian devotion, to use it as a means of evangelization. But we're 3 years of making that account, and being secular, and I just follow people that just don't really give a damn. Um, you know, I thought this was not going to be leading me anywhere, so that's why I decided to make the second account,
Hmm.
which first of all, it wasn't called Catholic Gabe to begin with. It was called at first it was called Thomist Catholic,
Oh wow.
because I think during this time, I really loved the teachings of Saint Thomas Aquinas, as well as Saint Augustine. So I was Augustinian and a Thomist. Now, obviously, I don't know everything about Thomism. Again, I'm still learning these things, but little by little, you learn. Um, but then I thought to myself, you know what? I can't really call myself a Thomist technically if I don't know everything about Thomism or I haven't read the entire Summa. So I decided to humble myself a little bit and just simply call myself Catholic Gabe.
Hmm.
At first it was Catholic Gabriel, but it first of but the thing was is that it's more catchy when you think about it. Catholic Gabe more than Catholic Gabriel.
Yeah,
So
it's good because otherwise, we would be competing for the same namesake, like, and at least now
yeah,
you're
I
you're
remember
Gabe,
that first day. I remember that first day we started encountering each other. Your first reaction was, "There can only be one Gabe," or something
Yeah,
like
I'm
that.
sure I
I,
can dig through. It's probably on Twitter or maybe in the Catholic group chat, and I was like, there can only be one Catholic Gabe.
yeah,
Gosh.
I was dying laughing that day. But
uh,
so and I deleted my secular account because the 4th of July I decided to. First of all, I can't believe I had the nerve to do it.
wow.
But
How
I
many
posted
followers did you
my
have on there?
uh, not that many. It was literally like 500.
So it's more
Um,
of the sentimental
right,
attachment.
right, right. So I posted myself a picture with the American flag, but on my right hand I had literally a crucifix with me.
Wow.
So,
So at this point, you
but
were already very much very Catholic. Like, when was the point in time where you were confident enough? Because you just became like officially Catholic just last week.
you know, I,
So when
I officially I think I gave many people hints. For example, the fact that I'm posting pictures with a crucifix, as well as helping posting quotes from Aquinas, which it's pretty mysterious because not every Protestant is engaged with Aquinas. Even if you are, then you're not that hooked up on him based on his understanding of faith and reasoning. Um, but with that being said, I posted that picture and I got some good backup.
Hmm.
Many conservatives that were in there helped me along the way. But at the same time, I also didn't have some pretty reactions. Some people unfollowed me. Some people, were just asking me really interesting questions. Um, but at the end, I said to myself, okay, you know what? This is not a positive channel. Every time you come in here, there's social media
Yeah,
can harm you mentally in so many levels
whole
if you're
bunch of
following.
whole bunch of basement dwellers hanging around and just
Yeah, and so I decided, okay, I'm gonna shut down this account because it's just not mentally healthy for me. Especially during this year, I mean, it was just political. It was full of emotions and everything. It was just not the best place to be in. And most of the people that I followed really didn't support my ideas. So then I started Catholic Gabe. I started engaging with a lot of Catholics who were, first of all, very pious people, very interested and fired on about the faith, and I got along with I got along with a lot of people. I started posting, doing posts on devotionals, saying quotes, papal encyclicals, so on and so forth. And this brought about a good opportunity because a lot of us wanted to, I feel like a lot of people started their Catholic accounts and everything because they saw that if we're going to be inside our homes and we're going to be forced to stay inside our homes, how are we going to evangelize? So therefore many people took the opportunity to start their own Catholic channels
hmm.
as the opportunity to evangelize. So basically I was not the only one doing this, it was a whole lot of people. um, but it became useful because I got to engage with a crowd where I started, praying the rosary with them, as well as, getting to know, and it was just a blessing because a lot of the Catholics that I knew in person were just simply nominalists, or those who maybe you would ask them, okay, what is the Eucharist, and their answer would be blank. They're just like, the what now?
Yeah, the
Uh,
most Catholics are very. It's unfortunate because this is something I'm very passionate about, to get young Catholics on fire for understanding their faith, because there's a lot to learn. As I think a recurring theme throughout this entire live stream is that with Catholicism, there's just so much to learn, and you have
right.
to start somewhere and at least get the basics down so you can answer these basic questions, because otherwise, wow, you're gonna have people like um formerly not Catholic Gabe come and ask you questions about the Eucharist and Mary and all of these things, and it's gonna shake your faith. I know it sure happened to
Yeah,
me as well. So
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I just took the good opportunity to to do that, to do it. And I've up my game a little bit, other than being on social media, just simply Instagram and Twitter. I decided to take little baby steps, as well as by starting YouTube just about a few months ago, as well as starting my own blog, and just little baby steps like that. Because I mean, I think many of my peers can agree that, I mean, if you truly do believe Catholicism is true, obviously you would want to share the faith with everyone and have open access to it. And sadly, many people just don't know where to start. That's another thing. So little by little, I think the Catholic community, as well as the people my age who are just on fire for the faith right now, are just really
planting
planting the
seeds.
seeds.
Have you gone frozen?
Right.
Oh, there you are.
Right. Yeah. Right.
No, this is a great story. So that now you guys know this is the origin story of how Catholic Gabe came about. Wow. So, if is that all you have to share? Otherwise, we're gonna move on to some questions. I think we have some questions.
Yeah, definitely. If we want to, I'm pretty sure I gave a good analysis on my conversion story. So yeah,
Yeah, it was.
definitely.
It was. I love that. I love that. As I said, I fail to recognize that sometimes there's a before stage, and now it was definitely enlightening. So I think let's see if we can pull this up. What was your family's reaction to your conversion?
Right. So basically, there wasn't that much of a negative feedback as to my conversion, because my mother, my aunt, and basically everyone's from my mom's side. In other words, uh, they were actually glad that I decided to convert to Catholicism. So
Wow.
there's some great news to that. And also my sister didn't. My sister was basically okay with it. Um, my father's side, in other words, my aunt and well, at least I know my aunt's reaction is that I feel like she's certainly not okay with it, because I remember when we were in a call and I told her about my conversion to Catholicism, and she just asked kind of funny questions, um, such as, do you have statues and everything? And I said, yes, ma'am, I do. As a matter of fact, I got icons and everything all over my room. So
Oh my.
there you go.
You
But
blasphemous idolater, Gabe.
and so yeah, and then so basically, at the end, and like I mentioned earlier, my father at first, the first two times he wasn't okay with it, but the third time he was. And I mean, he was proud of me the day of my confirmation and my first communion.
That's so
But other
nice.
than that, that was my family's reaction. So yeah.
Wow, okay, and as you can see, I'm just slowly pulling up the questions, plonking them all
Right.
over your face. So I think, like, so what is your favorite thing about Catholicism?
What I really do love about Catholicism is that there's always something new to learn. I mean, people want to talk about how, oh my goodness, Catholicism is so complicated. There's just so much stuff that you got to learn. I feel like it's great, especially, I feel like it's a great thing, especially if you're on fire for the faith. Not to mention the numerous, spiritual readings, the many things that you can learn. It's a 2,000-year history, so there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to be able to learn. And I see that Catholicism truly do offers you, many things to learn, uh, and many things that can really help you grow in your faith. Really, not to mention that we're standing on the shoulders of giants. So yeah, that's my favorite part. That's my
Yeah.
favorite thing about the faith.
2,000 years of history, 2,000 years to figure it out, as I always say. As you were saying earlier, that Catholicism really covers every single thing, and even one thing that I thought was very interesting was nocturnal emissions. Basically wet dreams. We even cover that. Aquinas covers that. Which,
Right.
who else covers this? Who would have
Right.
thought?
It's right. I mean, it's interesting how even the most unusual situations they go over. It's just incredible, honestly. Um, and like you said, I mean, you didn't even know patriotism was one of them, but there you go.
Exactly. Right. From Vanessa. I'm not sure if you know her. She runs the channel. That one Catholic girl. If you've heard of that. Shout out to her. She asks, um, was there an aha moment in your conversion? I think you might have covered that, but why not just reiterate that again?
Right. So when I well by what you mean by aha moment, meaning that okay, maybe I know this is the truth, the fullness of the truth that is in Christianity. Um, it was primarily about the papacy, because I feel like
Huh.
once you because the thing is that there's a teaching that if you can debunk the papacy, basically everything just falls down like a house of cards. So once I got to understand that Christ did appoint Saint Peter as the as first among equals with the other apostles, and that he was given the authority to clarify teaching, as well as um, how there's an apostolic succession to that. I felt like that was basically the aha moment where I can basically trust everything else. Now, in all seriousness, I did have moments where I uh, I still had doubts on some things, like for example, purgatory or the Immaculate Conception and whatnot. But yeah, I would say the biggest aha moment was in regards to the papacy,
Yeah,
at least
I
in
do
my perspective.
think that that is the sort of the thing that topples the house of cards, because if the papacy is true, then I mean, what else is there? I mean, uh, I guess for me as well. I'm sorry that my camera is not on screen. Let
No
me.
worries, no worries.
There we are. So I guess for me, as a cradle Catholic, something that I always thought was, well, it says clearly in the Bible that Jesus gave Peter authority, and I knew that if you go to Wikipedia, you have the entire succession of popes
Right,
from Peter all the way to Francis. So honestly, I was a terrible Catholic. I mean, in terms of faith, yeah, I had a strong faith, but I just thought that, well, if the papacy is true, then whatever the Pope says is true. So he probably just said, all these things are true. So,
right.
so all these things must be true, right? But that's really not how it works. But with that same logic, I guess, deep, not debunking, but understanding the papacy is one thing. And honestly, it's something that I'm
Yeah.
still looking into myself. So, hey, do send
Mhm.
some resources over. We're all learning here.
Oh, I mean, I got a couple of books here, so after we're done, we can
For
certainly go over that.
sure.
But
I know that
yeah.
I'm not sure if it's Scott Hahn, but he has this book, Pope Peter. Is that by Scott Hahn or someone else?
I don't recall ever reading that book.
Oh well, I'll
I'm pretty.
search it up.
Oh,
Well, another question. We'll get to that other question later, but this is, as someone who was just confirmed into the church, how was it like receiving the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ for the first time ever? And as Gwen asked, other than that, what was the thing you looked most forward to?
yeah. So first of all, in regards to receiving the Eucharist for the first time, I felt pretty relieved
Wow.
because I mean I was just every single day at the hour I was just so excited to finally receive Christ's body, blood, soul, and divinity. And that day, I mean, once you understand what the Eucharist is and the importance of it, you'll truly those those stresses that were just in your shoulder, all these thoughts about, I actually want to receive it before at least I die or something. And then once you understand what has 2,000 years of history taught about the Eucharist, once you learn these things, you'll understand the beauty of what it's like to receiving it. So
Yeah,
it
I mean,
was
just
just
to add on, like, I do think it is the understanding of what it is rather than more of like a huge, overwhelming emotional experience when you receive it
right.
and all of a sudden, boom, like it explodes in your mouth or something. I think if you
Yeah.
think about it that way, it's going to be very underwhelming. It's going to be a bit
Hmm.
anticlimactic. But when you truly understand what it is, then, that's where the true beauty of it is. And, every mass that you attend, it's gonna be like wow, just wow. So do continue on.
Yeah, I mean, I now the second. What was the part of the second question again from
Sec-
Gwen?
um Other than that, what was the thing you looked most forward to?
Oh, okay, yeah. So basically, what I'm really looking forward to is being active in my parish, because again, I came from a Protestant background where I was just really understood the importance of community. And during COVID-19, um, we're the only parish, as far as I'm concerned, in our diocese where there's like no certain mass restriction or social distancing and whatnot. And we don't force people to do these things. If they don't feel comfortable doing it, then they don't have to come. But our parish has grown. We do see some big families coming here and there. And I decided to recently join the Knights of Columbus. So again, I'm really looking forward to that. As well as I've been invited to a young adults group of the diocese, where I will be meeting. As much as I love our the Catholics that I know like digitally, at the same time it would be good if I knew some like in person that are also on fire for the faith. So I'm
For
also really looking
sure.
forward to that.
That
Yeah,
is
definitely.
that's great. Yeah, community. That is very much biblical, just the community of being brothers and sisters in Christ. Actually, something I wanted to add on was that you were talking about how Christ does call us to unity, and something that I've learned in my sort of research into deepening my faith was Christ's one of his final requests to us was it's in First Corinthians 1 verse 10. I appeal to you, brethren, by the name sorry, that's not Christ's final request. He did say something like that before, but this is
Right,
from Paul, if I'm not wrong. I appeal to you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree and that there be no dissensions among you, no divisions, but that you be
right,
united in the same mind and the same judgment. And
right,
that is, that is Catholicism because all of us throughout all of history. The point of having a papacy, a pope, is that we have one central authority. A lot of Protestants will be completely against this. How can there be one central authority? This is
yeah,
no, this is not how it works. But when you look at it, like, how else? How else? How else do you assure that everyone is believing the same things and being completely united? I always say that if you want a decentralized Christianity, that's like this is not Bitcoin. Like, Christianity is not it's not Bitcoin if you understand how that works. It's not like some decentralized thing where everyone does their own thing.
yeah. And I guess that's where it is especially hard to understand in American culture, because Americans,
Yeah.
there's the pride of wanting to be our own authorities, wanting to do it all on our own. And
I have
we also,
noticed. I have noticed.
so it's I can see why many Protestants think that way, especially being born. I mean, because a lot of Protestants are um they are conservative, and they don't agree with the idea of a monarchy. And obviously that's what the papacy is. He's a monarch. um and it's something just hard to get around with. But obviously truth comes above the Constitution in my defense. So
Yes.
yeah.
So so another question. This is something I had for you as well. The beard, the beard. I mean, are you sure you're in the right church? Like, like you have the beard of an
Okay.
ortho bro, you know. Tell us
yeah.
about
So
that.
let so let me explain. Um, so there are two reasons why I decided to grow a beard in the first place. First of all, I always wanted to grow one. That's number one. Number two, because y'all should look up the. I did a post on Instagram about the early fathers' perspective on having a beard. Uh, Now, I'm not going to say that the reason why I decided to grow a beard was because of that, but based on what they say, you're going to get
Hey,
slandered if you dare
that's
even.
completely valid, even if it was. So,
Right. Now, the beard thing was because, also because I'm in college and some of us don't have time to shave every single 2 days. And so I decided to leave it out one day, and from there I just grew it out. Now what I will say is that I believe it was 2 months ago I decided to cut it out, and I thought to myself, man, I look like a child, and I'm just like, nah, I'm growing it back on. Plus, having a beard, it makes you look mature. It makes you feel, confident, courageous, and whatnot. Obviously, it's not the beard that gives you these characteristics, but it's that secondary characteristic that just expresses, what is in you inwardly. Um, so I guess you can say that's why I grew it out. Also because I've been learning about, Eastern Christianity, and
oh
obviously
yeah,
Eastern Christians,
oh yeah.
especially if you go to Eastern Europe, or South, or excuse me, or the Middle East and whatnot, you are gonna get that encouragement, culturally speaking, about growing the beard out. So yeah, I guess those are my valid reasonings, at least, why I grew it out. So yeah.
Hey, I mean, you never need an actual reason to grow a beard, you know. You you are entitled to grow as much facial hair as you want. So yeah, I think that's yeah, we've gone on for quite a while,
Yeah.
and that's really wow. I will definitely take clips out of this and post them on Instagram here and there. So even if there's not many people watching right now, that's hey, we're gonna get this out there. I do hope you will share this with your audience as well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Thank you again for having me on, and being given the opportunity to talk about my conversion story.
For sure, I'm very happy to have you. So, do you, where can people find you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Catholic Gabe, as well as my Twitter. You can also subscribe to me on YouTube. On Basically, just research Catholic space Gabe, and basically it's a YouTube channel with the image of Saint Augustine in it. Again, Saint
I
Augustine is one of
will
those saints that I just really look
link
up to.
all of that in the description right after this. So do send me all of
Right.
those links.
Y-
So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
do you subscribe to my channel? Follow me on Instagram. When you subscribe, to push notifications on. Like this video because yeah, apparently that helps. I have no idea how all of this works. Evident from my subscriber count and viewership. I mean, I've been doing this for a while, so most of my subscribers are actually from my previous days of being a musician. But so I bet all of them are wondering what the heck is all of this stuff popping up. I came here for music. Well, I'm sorry. This is what you're gonna get now. But well, that
I
said,
will
hmm
I will say, I mean, for a first time you doing a live, I gotta say it went pretty smoothly
I
and
think
stuff
so.
like
Yeah.
this,
I mean,
for the most
besides the
part.
fact that my camera keeps turning on and off, but it doesn't matter. And I just want to give a shout out to all of these great guys in the comments who I think they obviously disagree. I'm not sure if they're Protestant or something, but thanks for being a good sport. Sorry I didn't get a chance to address all of your questions, but I will try to in a later another live stream maybe. I will have to have you back on, Catholic Gabe, to
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely have to do this again. Thank you for being good sport to our loyal audience and for asking great questions like how you grew that beard.
I'm gonna say I was definitely not expecting that. I was,
Well,
but it is what it is.
you're too modest. Anywho, so all right, do follow Catholic Gabe wherever he is on, and all of that said and done, I am Gabriel X Charles, the more superior Gabriel, and I'll see you in the next episode of the Catechism Diaries.